Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today we're going to talk about eating windows. But first, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You may be wondering to yourself, Bob, what exactly am I watching here? Well, basically you're watching me walk. That doesn't seem super exciting until you realize a little less than 9 months ago, I could barely stand up for 2 to 2.5 minutes at a time. Now I'm out here walking every day. As a side note, I've reversed my type 2 diabetes, cured my fatty liver, cured my stage 1 chronic kidney disease. My arthritis and spinal stenosis are both about 95% better. I've had 0 gout flare-ups. Basically, I'm well on the way to healing here. But this walking thing is pretty exciting to me because I couldn't do this before, and now I can. If you're returning to the channel, I'm also glad you're here. Thank you so much for stopping by again today. You guys mean so much to me. I can't even tell you how much. But I'm happy everybody's here. I do have a sidetrack comment thing to talk about. Someone talking about when I was eating. Either, because that one day I did a video and walked after I'd eaten. And I still felt okay, but it wasn't great. And then there was a question in Dr. Barry's live last night, and it made perfect sense to me. If you think back to, back in the days when we had long pointy sticks and went out and hunted the great big megafaunas for the tribe to track down and eat. It makes sense that most of those people were hungry because that's why they're out hunting, but they had to physically exert themselves to go hunt the food, and then at the end of the physical exertion, they've taken down the big animal, and now they get to eat. I'm not, this is not science, because we all know I get in trouble if I try to do science. But it makes perfect sense to me that if you are going to do some kind of strenuous exercise, or even in my case, just out here walking around the church, I'm really hoping it warms up and dries out so I can get out on the trail again, because I won't say I'm getting bored with walking around the church, because having previously not been able to walk and now doing it every day, it's going to take a lot more than a few weeks off trail because of the cold and the wet to make me bored with walking around the church parking lot. But I am getting itchy to get back out on trail. But it makes perfect sense that, you would exert yourself and then eat and then go lay down and take a nap. Like I said, it's not science, just a thought that kind of popped into the chat on Dr. Barry's live last night. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it. And as I answered the person that asked me about it, I said, I don't know if there's any science behind it or not, but Coach Bronson always tries to do his workouts in a fasted state. But anyway, let's talk about eating windows. So you've, gotten rid of all the junk in your house. You've decided what you're going to try to eat for your carnivore diet. And now you've done the first 2 weeks to a month of just eating as much as you can, as often as you can, not worrying about anything else. At some point in that time, you're going to be thinking about eating because it's the time you normally eat, and you're going to go, wow, I'm just not hungry. Now's the time to start working on picking an eating window. I would start with a 6 to 8 hour window. So for most people, that's going to be like from 10 o'clock in the morning until sometime between 4 and 6 in the evening. And start off with, at the start of your eating window, eat a great big meal as much as you can hold. And then, if you're getting down to the end of your eating window and you haven't actually gotten super hungry yet, but if you don't eat something, you'll be hungry again long before you get back to the top of your eating window, then go ahead and have a little snack. But if you get hungry in there, go right ahead and have another great big meal. During that eating window, go ahead and eat as much as you want, as often as you want. If that ends up being 2 or 3 or even 4 meals in that 6 to 8 hour window, go right ahead. And then eventually, over the course of several weeks, you'll notice that your eating window is shrinking a little bit. You're not quite super hungry when 10 o'clock rolls around, so you kind of hold off till noon. And then if you're having your second meal sometime between 4 and 6, you're now doing what's called an 18-6 intermittent fast. You have a 6 hour eating window, 18 hours where you're not eating. But don't try to force it. Don't say, okay, today's the day I'm going to switch over to an eating window. Just let it come to you naturally. At some point, if you've been eating enough, often enough, basically just stuffing yourself whenever you get the chance, as much as you can hold, of the proper carnivore foods. Eventually, you're going to not get hungry. And this is where a little more snacking might come in. If you think, okay, I've got this, I'm within a 6 hour eating window, so now I'm going to get the benefits of having an 18-hour fast every day. But some nights just before bed, you're like, oh man, I'm kind of hungry. Go ahead and eat. Don't restrict yourself just because, for the last week or two you've been doing an 18-6 just fine. But now all of a sudden you're hungry just before you go to bed. Go ahead and eat. Whether that be, a snack of a couple boiled eggs and a couple strips of bacon. Because remember, we're keeping boiled eggs and cooked bacon and meat cookies in our fridge for just such an emergency. Go ahead, have a couple boiled eggs and a meat cookie or a couple strips of bacon. You will have less fasting time that day, but I think you'll find over the long run it makes it easier to stick to a long-term eating window. I still occasionally, I've been one meal a day for, 5 or 6 months now, most of it. I converted very quickly to one meal a day because, like I said, I've always been a big eater. But because when I started I was thinking I was going to have 2 meals a day. But, by the time to get where I was eating 1.5 pounds of hamburger or 2 pounds of stew meat or a 2-pound roast, I just wasn't hungry for the rest of the day. So I stopped. But every once in a while, I still get that little urge. I have, I told you I buy those pre-packaged, they're pre-boiled and pre-peeled hard-boiled eggs. So at any time I get a little snacky or a little hungry or whatever, I just grab a couple of boiled eggs, dump a little salt on them and eat them. Now a lot of the time, just a pinch of salt on my tongue will get rid of that urge to eat. But sometimes it doesn't. So go ahead and, even though, you could have been doing one meal a day successfully for 2 or 3 months. And some days, just out of the blue, you're going to get hungry again. Just eat. It's not going to hurt you. Now, if you want to know all of the benefits of intermittent fasting, there's a lot of them. Primarily autophagy, which is the process by which our cells deconstruct bad or damaged cells and reconstruct them into new vital cells that are working properly. So, that's one of the benefits. If you want to know all the sciencey stuff behind it, I suggest you go watch Dr. Jason Fung. He is, without question, the expert on intermittent fasting. Oh, and for those of you that couldn't tell, it's still really cold out. I had some stuff to do. The first thing of the missions conference was this morning at 10 o'clock, and it was only 27, 28 degrees. So the reason I'm not wearing my big heavy blue coat, but I still have my hat on, is because I have my one pair of long johns on, because I knew it was supposed to be cold today. I've been saving them. And I've got my one thick, heavy, long sleeve shirt on. So I was almost warm enough without the jacket, but the wind keeps kicking up a little bit here and there. And that wind, I need a wind-breaking layer to keep from getting cold. But now I'm in pretty good shape. I'm not super cold. It's been about 24 hours since it stopped raining, and there's still water sitting down here in the drainage area. The ground is just saturated out here. Luckily, after tonight, it's supposed to get cold again tonight. Not as cold. It's only supposed to get into the high 20s tonight instead of the low 20s. But then they're calling for 55 tomorrow, 65 on Monday, and into the 70s by Wednesday and Thursday, but of course they're calling for more rain then. So I'm hoping, today is actually Saturday, even though you're going to see this video on Sunday. I'm hoping to get out on trail just a little bit on Monday. I may not go super far, but I do want to get back out there and get some hiking in, because I miss being on the trail. But that's my little talk about eating windows. Now in tomorrow's video, we're gonna start talking about some of the problems that you may encounter as you get deeper into the carnivore diet. And we'll talk about solutions to those problems. But I will recap today's video at the end. If you're not a big fan of the music section, go ahead and skip on forward to where you see me talking to the camera again. For the rest of you, I'm going to try and flip this camera around again. I had it pointed down too far, so I'm going to flip it around and tilt it up and see if I can't get a better forward-facing picture. We'll see what happens. Let's cue the music. Okay, cut the music. Thank you. I had to duck into the shade behind the bus there just so I could see what I was doing with my camera. Whew. Yeah, it's a lot harder to walk when it's only 35 degrees out. A lot harder to walk. I didn't make nearly as good a time on those laps as I have been. And between all the running around and helping the missionaries unload and all that kind of stuff, I'd already gotten about 2 miles in before 2 miles worth of steps before I started this. So that's probably going to be about it for today. But just remember, our target is to get into a specific eating window. Whether that be a 1 hour window or a 3 hour window or a 4 or 5 or 6 or even 8 hour window. So we're fasting the rest of the time. But we don't want to force it. We just want to let it come to us naturally. Because if we try to force it, we're going to fail. Just let it come to you. And if you get hungry, if you've been going along and it's been going pretty good, but then all of a sudden one day you're hungry, go ahead and eat. As long as you're eating, carnivore foods, it's not going to hurt you. You'll probably have a little less autophagy that day. But you shouldn't suffer any ill effects from eating the extra food because it's all carnivore stuff. I mean, if you want to keep on eating 3 meals a day throughout your carnivore journey, that's perfectly okay. You're going to miss out on some of the benefits. The autophagy, which is why, I do have some loose skin underneath my arms and around my waist and stuff, but considering I've lost a little over 130 pounds in less than 9 months, I should have a lot more loose skin than I do. And I think a great deal of that has to do with the fact that I've been eating 1 meal a day, with a few minor exceptions here and there, for 6 months, which has allowed autophagy to help eat up some of that excess skin. I'm still going to have some extra skin. It'll probably take a couple years yet to get rid of all that. And I'm still not at my goal. I still got about 25 pounds to go. 25 or 30. I haven't stepped on the scale in a while. But yeah, so just the main thing is to try to establish an eating window so you're getting some good intermittent fasting in. But if you don't get it right away, or even later down the road, if you have to break that and have a little extra something because you're hungry, go right ahead and eat. Part of why 99% of all diets fail is because there's some kind of eating restriction or caloric intake restriction, portioning food, any of that kind of stuff. Eventually you get hungry and you eat. And usually what happens when you've been on a restrictive diet, if you're about to fall off the wagon and eat something you shouldn't, you usually jump in with both feet and have something really bad for you. So if you get hungry, just eat some eggs, eat some bacon, eat some hamburger patties, or if you're really hungry, go ahead and cook yourself up a second steak. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's what I've got for you today, folks. Don't forget to get out there, be 1% better. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you tomorrow.